stocks close mixed on Wall Street. S&P 500 and Nasdaq gain while the Dow slips on weak earnings. Nasdaq futures rise after Netflix reports a jump in subscribers. Stocks in the Asia Pacific open mixed while the GIFT Nifty suggesting a higher start for the Indian market. The US dollar hits a 6-week high on declining expectations of a rate cut in March. Gold edges higher while crude remains range-bound around $80 a barrel. Axis Bank reports an operationally weak third quarter, but deposit growth of over 5% surpasses private banking peers. Net profit, however, is in line with estimates. And it's an earnings-heavy day today. Bajaj Auto and TVS Motors are expected to post a strong set for the third quarter. Operational performance will be the key metric to track for Tata Steel, while Tech Mahindra is expected to see revenue decline for the third straight quarter. Good morning in the Mumbai News Centre. I'm Sonal Bhutra. You're watching Power Breakfast. Those are the top headlines that we are tracking. Continues to be an earnings-heavy day for our own markets and in the US as well. So first up, let's take a look at the global markets and specifically Asian markets, which are largely mixed after a mixed handover that we got from the Wall Street. While Hang Seng continues to do really well, it's a 2% gain on the Hang Seng that we are seeing right now. The Taiwanese index is up 0.3%. So these two markets are doing really well as we speak. It's the Nikkei which has come in for some profit taking. It's down 0.6%. It was one of the big gainers yesterday. So some profit taking there. We have the Kospi which is in the red right now. So a mixed picture from the Asian markets. But if we look at the GIFT Nifty, that is the one that will indicate the movement in our own market as well. So that one is indicating a higher start. So this GIFT Nifty, the implied open will come up for you on the screen. It's a 70-point uptick that the GIFT Nifty is suggesting. However, it will be very important to track what happens in the second half of the market ahead of the monthly expiry tomorrow, because yesterday we did see a big fall from the highs of the day. And in the US markets, Wall Street ended Tuesday's trading session mixed. The Dow fell by nearly 100 points while the S&P gained nearly 0.3%. The tech-heavy index, Nasdaq, closed 0.43% higher. Meanwhile, the 10-year US Treasury yield surged mildly ahead of key economic data due later this week. And in some key earnings, shares of Netflix surged in extended trading hours after the company reported their fourth quarter numbers. It was after market hours. The streaming giant added 13.1 million subscribers during the fourth quarter, beating Wall Street's estimates of 9 million. The company also beat expectations on the revenue front, and that's why it did well in post-market hours. Okay, let's stay with the US markets. Let's go listen in to Brian Belsky of BMO Capital Markets as he talks about his outlook on the market and the Fed's involvement. Listen in.
We've been on record since November of 2023 that the new bull market, in terms of the cyclical part of the bull market, began in October of 2022. Many people didn't realize that until, of course, the market was up over 20% last year. We think this, again, is part of a 25-year secular bull market that came into place in 2009. Since August of 2007, investing has been all about the Fed. That's when the Fed opened up the discount window and effectively started QE. And we continue to believe that there's been way too much focus on the Fed. We've been doing this for a long time. You and I have been talking back and forth for a long time. Fed funds futures. Fed funds futures have been wrong for 2 years. For 2 years, they've been wrong, and we have this intense focus. I actually don't have any clue or understanding why anyone in their right mind was thinking about the Fed was going to cut in the first quarter. I just don't understand that, and that's because of this intense focus on the Fed and a lack of focus on looking at equities.
Okay, that's the global market action, but how will these overnight cues impact our own markets? We have a research team joining in to tell you just that. What is the trade setup looking like, the stocks that are likely to be in the news, and the action from the F&O space as well. Hey guys, a very good morning to both of you. Sudarshan, let me come across to you first up. Well, it was a mixed handover. What is the market setup for our own markets?
That's right. So, morning, Sonal. Well, the handover that you've got from global markets looking largely mixed at this point. For the US market on Tuesday, after a range-bound session, S&P 500 and Nasdaq managed to record gains, while the blue chip index Dow Jones snapped 3-day gaining streak to close in the red. At stock levels, though, we saw some sharp reaction to earnings on both the side. Netflix, Verizon and United Airlines have surged, while 3M and Lockheed Martin have slipped after their quarterly results. Coming to our market, we saw sharp cuts on Tuesday with weakness seen across the board except a few pharma names, and the fall was severe, especially in broader markets. Nifty Bank fell nearly 1500 points and mid-cap index more than 2000 points from their intraday highs. And this led to BSE listed companies erasing market cap of nearly 8 lakh crore rupees on Tuesday. At stock level, the biggest weighted stock, HDFC Bank, remains weak. Yesterday, it contributed almost 50% to the fall of Nifty Bank and dragged Nifty by nearly 90 points. Amongst other names besides HDFC Bank, there were some PSU companies that saw profit booking after recent run-up. Even at institutional levels, big basket selling was seen. FIs sold shares of more than rupees 3,000 crore, while the buy figure for DIIs was just rupees 200 crore. For today, GIFT Nifty at this point is indicating a start with healthy gains. Keep an eye on companies that will be reporting earnings. Some of them are Bajaj Auto, Balkrishna Industries, Canara Bank, Tata Steel, Tech Mahindra and TVS. Also, we'll be watching stocks like Z Entertainment and Polycab that come out of FNO band today.
Okay, all right. So a couple of those names which will be on our radar, but there are a lot many. Hormaz is joining us now this morning to list out the stocks in focus. Hey, good morning.
Morning, Sonal. And a stock, when it falls 30% in a day, the others don't really matter, but we'll keep an eye out on all the other names as well, starting off with Axis Bank, where the numbers were mostly in line with expectations. The deposit growth was the highlight of the quarter, but the NIMs that fell to a 5-quarter low, so we'll keep an eye out on that. Pidilite, the consumer business, reported a volume growth of 10.3% compared to expectations of 8 to 10%, but the management said that the rural and small town markets are outpacing the growth in the urban markets. United Spirits, the operational performance was strong. EBITDA was beating estimates. The margins at 16.2%, also higher than the 14.5% expectation. The management also said that the sequential demand momentum, although muted, but the premiumization trend continues. Havells was a miss on all fronts. The management also said that the consumer demand remains subdued, though the recent trends are suggesting some recovery. But although the infrastructure-led demand remains robust, the consumer lighting business still remains impacted due to the LED price deflation. Indus Towers will be the one that, although it reported results, the commentary though on Vodafone Idea is the key. They are saying that Vodafone Idea's fundraising plans have not materialized till date, and they have not made the committed payments pertaining to the outstanding amount due as of the 31st of December 2022. Among other stocks that will be reacting to earnings include Glenmark Life, Tata Elxsi, Sona BLW, and also in focus will be Aster DM, which has received the shareholder approval to separate the GCC business from its India operations, and they also said that they are looking to expand its India capacity by adding almost 1,500 beds in the next 2 to 3 years. And lastly, keep an eye out on BLS International, where its unit BLS E-Services has filed its RHP with the Registrar of Companies for its upcoming IPO, and the 10% of the issue size is reserved for existing shareholders. Back to you.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Hormaz, for that list. Finally, all the cues from the FNO space. Mangnam is joining us now. Hey, Mangnam.
Good morning. So, yesterday was a very weak day of trade. No two ways about it. We saw a big decline in all the indices. The mid-cap index was the worst hit with a 3% cut. And the intensity of the fall is determined by how much we fell from the highs, and there the Nifty saw a 500-point decline from the highs. That's as much as we saw in the last 4 trading sessions itself from the highs. However, the FII data did not seem to suggest that there was a big sell-off, volume-led sell-off. 3,000 crores worth net sell by FIIs. The DIIs bought about 214 crores. Cross volumes by the FIs were rather high, close to around 27,000 odd crores. In index futures, one would have imagined that the FIs would go hammer and tongs on the short side. That wasn't to be. In fact, they bought around 186 crores in index futures. They added a few long positions and covered some short positions as well. As a result of which, FIIs who are net short on the index futures are still net short by about 47%. Remember, the long positions had fallen to 46% in the previous trading session itself. The important part, however, the GIFT Nifty is indicating a positive start, and on the way up, we may face some resistance. 21,300 call on the Nifty is extremely active for a premium of 73 odd rupees, telling you levels upwards of 2350 to 2370 may face some resistance. On the way up, the 21,400 call also is extremely active. Now, it is the Jan series expiry tomorrow for both Nifty as well as Nifty Bank, and ahead of that, the Nifty put call ratio is at 0.74. Usually, the market bottoms out anywhere around 0.68 to 0.7, so that is something that we will have to keep an eye out on as well. The bunch of stocks that we'll be watching out for, the big purge that happened in the mid-cap index yesterday, Z, after a big decline yesterday, is out of FNO band, so let's see where that goes. And a bunch of other stocks as well, which are out of FNO band, include the likes of ABFRL, which also saw a big purge yesterday. We saw Delta Corp and Polycab, all of them exiting FNO band. So those will be the stocks which we'll be watching out for.
Okay, all right, guys, thank you so much for joining us and prepping us up for this trading day ahead. With that, we'll take a short break. When we come back, Axis Bank reported numbers, third quarter numbers post-market hours yesterday. We'll get you the highlights on the other side. Stay tuned for that. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast, and as promised, let's throw the spotlight on some earnings we are tracking this morning. Axis Bank will be in focus after reporting its third quarter earnings. Abhishek Kothari is joining us with the fine print.
Well, the key highlight of Axis Bank result is the deposit growth on a sequential basis, which is more than 5% in an otherwise operationally weak P&L. So deposit growth was about 5.15% on a sequential basis, which is the best among other private peers like ICICI Bank, Federal Bank, IndusInd Bank, Kotak Bank, etc. YOY, the deposit growth was at 18.5%, which is the best in last 8 quarters. Annualized credit cost is at 3-quarter low of about 0.3%. The watch list at 0.54% is the lowest that you are seeing in last 8 to 9 years. X of Q2 FY24, the slippage ratio is the lowest in last 12 quarters, and asset quality is one of the best that you are seeing in last 8 to 9 years. Negative from the result, the overall operating profit has actually declined YOY for the first time in last 6 quarters. The core operating profit growth is the weakest amongst peer. YOY, it's flat, that is 0, and it's the only lender to not see core operating profit growth on a YOY basis when compared to 6.2 for IndusInd Bank, 32.7% for Kotak Bank, ICICI at 10% and SDFC Bank at 18%. 5-quarter low net interest margin as cost of funds are weighing in on the net interest margin. Domestic net interest margin is at 6-quarter low. CASA ratio, which across the industry is the same phenomenon that everyone is losing out. CASA ratio is at 14-quarter low of 42.1%. In terms of the P&L versus our poll, it was almost matched in terms of NII as well as PAT. Back to you.
Okay, all right. That is about Axis Bank, a big stock that will be in focus today. But let's move on to another Nifty name. MotoCorp has announced 2 launches, Harley X440 and Maverick 440. On the sidelines of the launch event, my colleague Danish caught up with Niranjan Gupta, who is the CEO of MotoCorp, to discuss the business outlook moving forward. Let's listen into a few excerpts from that conversation.
On the premium, you already see us, if I tell you the lineup of the premium portfolio, it's looking exciting already. So we've got an X-Pulse, we've got an Extreme 160, we've got a Charisma, we've got Harley Davidson X440, we've got a Maverick 440. Of course, in fiscal year 25, you will see some more launches, but I'll not right now give out a number. And what we'll do is that we will build the scale of the current launches that we have done and equally then look at filling the remaining gaps in the portfolio.
Right. So what is the you're planning for market share? What is the number that you're chasing to capture in the premium segment?
So I won't give any guidance on this one, but I can tell you we are doing all the right things. What we are doing is build a full portfolio. You can already see 3 years back the number of premium products that we had versus today, and I can tell you that 3 years later you will have even more. Stores. It's the first time in 10 years that we are upgrading our stores, because stores are needed to be upgraded to actually cater to premium customer. We are providing a full digital journey. So that's again digital and AI we are using for the customer experience. And of course, everyone used to talk about that, what about the brand? And we got an association with a strong premium brand, and you saw even Charisma coming back and iconic. So I think that's the way that we are building. We are looking at a medium term. Obviously, our target is to win in the overall premium segment, but obviously, I'll not give out any guidance on the numbers. As far as the entry segment is concerned, I think the government's capex programs, which have been there for the last 2 years consistently, is a great strategy. And those will result. They're starting to result. The green shoots coming. And of course, our welfare programs that the government is running. So the combination of the two is we see that the confidence in the rural segment is going up. We already know that there's a lot of penetration opportunity. We do see in the coming next few quarters the entry segment to revive. But of course, we are the leaders there. Our strategy there is that we need to grow the core. So we are finding ways to grow through financing, through other means, through actually advertising, campaigns, reviving that while the overall economy of the rural segment comes back.
Right. So how are the things on Q4 end? What is your anticipation? Where would the company end Q4? And as far as the new financial year is concerned, what are the targets that you have laid down for the entire company?
Well, no guidance on Q4. All I can say is that, look, over the next few years, we do see two-wheeler industry growing at double-digit revenue growths, yeah? And that's our estimate. And obviously, we are entering these segments, we are putting new models, and therefore, while the industry grows, our focus will be on increasing market share.
Okay, focus is on increasing market share. That's the word coming in from Hero MotoCorp. With that, we'll step into another break. When we come back, we'll tell you everything about what's happening in the commodities market. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast, where we spoke about equity markets. It's time to understand everything that's happening in the commodity space. Manisha Gupta is joining us with all the update as always. Hey Manisha, good morning.
Hi, morning, and thank you for that. Well, I'm looking at the crude oil prices, which have seen some profit taking from the highs. Remember, the prices did gain 2% on Monday. This is after there were reports of Ukraine drone strike against a major Russia fuel terminal. But since then, there has been other news as well. For example, Libya is now restarting its production in its Sharara oil field, so those supplies are coming back. Also, the output is recovering in North Dakota after the winter storm. So these supplies are back into the market. And then there are various reports, and there is no confirmation to that yet, that there is a peace proposal between that is being talked about, at least, between Israel and Gaza. I mean, of course, both sides as of now have not confirmed it, but we do know that there are some conversations there. The markets also are looking at the Chinese considering a $278 billion of a rescue package to support its equity markets, etc. If that happens, that would mean more liquidity coming into the market, more demand for oil, etc., and metals as well. So this is going to be a major development that the street will keep an eye on.
Okay, all right. We'll keep coming back to you for more updates on this one. Manisha, thank you so much for joining us always and telling us what's happening in the commodity space. With that, now we'll get you the latest updates from the West Asia conflict. The tensions continue to escalate between Israel and Hamas as the armed wings of Palestinian militant group Hamas claims responsibility for a rocket attack that killed 21 Israeli soldiers in the Gaza Strip. Following the attack, the Israel military says they have encircled Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. Meanwhile, intensive talks are underway to trade Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners, along with a month-long ceasefire and increase in aid to the civilians in Gaza. The talks are being mediated by US, Qatar and Egypt. Okay, all right. With that, we'll do one thing. We'll take your leave on this edition of Power Breakfast, but do stay tuned. Bazaar Morning Call comes up next, and it is going to be an intense market day as well. So stay tuned for that.